The Formula One season rolls into Canada, and it's already shaping up to be a weekend filled with tension and crucial moments. There's plenty happening behind the scenes, from an internal clash at McLaren to the looming shadow of a possible penalty for Verstappen. Add the uncertainty surrounding Ferrari and Mercedes, and suddenly, this race feels like it could flip the table on everything we've seen so far. The Canadian Grand Prix isn't just another race. It's a stage where small mistakes can turn into big disasters. The tight layout, concrete barriers, and unforgiving final chicanes demand perfection from every driver. Montreal's circuit is known for pushing limits, especially when the weather adds its own twist. A 30% chance of rain on Sunday may sound small, but in a city like this, it's never safe to assume clear skies. The forecast could throw the entire grid into chaos. But that's not the only storyline heating up. Verstappen sits on a dangerous edge with 11 out of the 12 points that would trigger a race ban. Helmut Marko made it clear. He's been instructed to drive with caution in the next couple of races. If he makes it to Austria, a couple of those penalty points will expire. Until then, any mistake could sideline him at the worst possible time. Red Bull needs to be laser-focused here. Their recent performance in Barcelona showed signs of uncertainty, and a strategy call involving hard tires sent Verstappen tumbling from P3 to P10. That kind of result is not just frustrating, it's damaging. Verstappen's hunger to reclaim lost ground will be evident in Montreal. He'll want to make a statement against the McLaren duo after losing out recently. Even though he's repeatedly said this isn't a title-contending year for him, anyone who's followed his racing knows he doesn't settle quietly. Think back to last season in Canada. When many expected Norris to take the win, Verstappen delivered. A performance that reminded everyone how lethal he is in unpredictable conditions. That's why eyes are locked on the weather. It could be the great equalizer once again. On the McLaren front, things are heating up too. The competition between Piastri and Norris is growing more intense with each race. Piastri currently leads Norris by 10 points in the driver standings. That margin might seem small, but the psychological edge is significant. After all, Norris has been with McLaren since 2019, and now he's seeing the newcomer rack up wins quicker than him. There's no doubt that Piastri's recent victory was a blow, and if Norris wants to silence critics and remind everyone of his capabilities, Canada might be the place to do it. Let's not forget what happened in Miami, where Norris secured his first career win. But when the fight moved to Canada, he was left frustrated. A poorly timed pit stop gave Verstappen the edge, and Norris couldn't close the gap. That moment could turn out to be a defining one in this year's championship battle. With the title race narrowing down to a select few, each race matters more than ever, especially with no real threat outside of this top trio. Unless something major shifts, it's going to be between Verstappen, Piastri, and Norris all the way through. This weekend could offer yet another intense clash between the McLaren pair. Piastri seems to be winning over fans with his calm and focused approach, while Norris continues to face questions stemming from past performances. There's no hiding from the pressure now. Every decision, every pit stop, and every corner counts. The fact that these two drivers are free to compete against each other adds even more fuel to the fire. There's no team orders in play, just two racers, both eager to prove who deserves to lead McLaren into the future. And then there's Mercedes. After a rough showing in Spain, they're coming into Canada with updates they hope will change the story. Losing both cars in Imola and Barcelona due to technical issues hurt not just their points tally, but their confidence as well. Sitting second in the constructors' standings isn't enough for a team used to dominating. George Russell and his teammate are looking at Montreal as a fresh start. The cooler temperatures could help them, considering Mercedes has traditionally performed better in such conditions. James Allison, Mercedes' technical lead, recently pointed out that Montreal's challenge lies in managing tire temperatures correctly across both axles. He noted that this track, with its heavy braking zones and tricky layout, often suits their setup better. But can they convert potential into results? After a brutal triple header, a strong finish here would be more than just points. It would be a statement. If they don't capitalize, the doubts around their season will only grow louder. If there's anyone who could benefit from a turnaround in Canada, it's Mercedes, and especially Verstappen's rivals. The upgraded W16 has started to show signs of closing the performance gap to Red Bull's RB21, but not quite enough to challenge for outright victories yet. Still, having another team capable of stealing valuable points from Verstappen could change the trajectory of the title fight, and that's exactly why every move on track this weekend carries extra weight. Mercedes has two consistent drivers capable of scoring well, which is something Red Bull can't fully say at this point. While Verstappen continues to shoulder the weight of expectations, his teammate hasn't been able to match his performance. That imbalance means Verstappen is essentially fighting alone at the front. And as the competition stiffens, especially with McLaren's rise, Red Bull might start feeling the pinch. There's very little margin for error now. Now let's shift focus to Ferrari. Charles Leclerc's podium in Spain brought a much-needed morale boost to the team. But whether that form continues in Canada remains uncertain. The colder climate and ongoing dissatisfaction with their car setup may work against them this time. Still, Ferrari needs to push hard if they want to remain in the constructors' battle. Every race from here on could be a deciding factor in who finishes where by season's end. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton finds himself in a frustrating position. He's clearly not satisfied with the team's direction, and whispers are growing about when he'll start urging the team to shift focus to 2026. His body language says more than the interviews, and unless something changes soon, the seven-time champion may start pulling back his efforts this season. Canada might be one of his final chances to turn things around and feel like he's still in the fight. A podium finish for Hamilton in Montreal wouldn't just boost his morale, it might be the spark that reignites his belief in this season. But achieving that without some fortune looks difficult. Karun Chandok, a respected voice from Sky F1, has expressed concerns about Hamilton's confidence. According to him, the British driver hasn't looked comfortable or consistent from race to race. And with almost half the season behind us, that inconsistency is becoming harder to ignore. Chandok didn't mince words. He mentioned that if he were part of Hamilton's garage crew, he'd be worried. The lack of rhythm, the absence of that usual edge, it's all adding up. Hamilton has often been known for bouncing back when it matters, but if the car doesn't respond to his needs soon, he might mentally check out and shift his energy toward preparing for the next regulation era in 2026. At some point, he might decide that this season's battle isn't worth the emotional toll. That's why this race is so important for Mercedes, not just for constructors' points, but to prove to their star driver that progress is possible. Alongside Hamilton, Leclerc will also be under the spotlight. If Ferrari wants to remain in the title conversation, they'll need results in places like Canada, where track conditions challenge teams in unique ways. For both of them, this weekend could serve as a confidence test more than anything else. Yet, it's not just the frontrunners who are worth watching in Montreal. All eyes are on Lance Stroll, especially considering it's his home event. Questions still linger about his health after recent surgery, and whether he'll actually be fit enough to race remains unclear. His absence could open the door for some fresh faces or familiar ones at Aston Martin, which could shape the storylines in more ways than one. If Stroll isn't cleared to race, Aston Martin has a critical decision to make. On one side, there's Felipe Drugovich, their reserve driver and former F2 champion. Giving him the seat would offer a valuable glimpse into his racecraft at the highest level. On the other side stands Valtteri Bottas, a veteran with years of experience who could step in and potentially deliver points right away. Either way, this situation could become a defining moment for the Silverstone-based team, not just for Canada, but for their long-term vision. What's becoming increasingly clear, though, is that patience with Lance Stroll may be wearing thin. Another error like the one in Barcelona could force the leadership at Aston Martin to reconsider their current setup. Nepotism or not, the sport is moving forward fast, and those who can't keep pace may get left behind regardless of their connections. Yuki Tsunoda is also facing mounting pressure. After lackluster showings in Imola and Barcelona, particularly in qualifying, he's now skating on thin ice. Red Bull management is reportedly growing impatient. And with Ayumu Iwasa now having double the points, and Daniel Ricciardo and Liam Lawson both waiting in the wings, Tsunoda's seat is anything but secure going into 2026. There's also an unpredictable factor. If Verstappen ends up serving a race ban, someone like Lawson could suddenly find himself thrown into the spotlight. Every driver, whether chasing a seat or defending one, knows that a single weekend can make or break their future in Formula One. So what does Canada really offer this season? High stakes, rising tensions, and a handful of careers hanging in the balance. Montreal may not crown a champion, but it could quietly reshape the second half of the season. Now it's over to the teams, the drivers, and the unpredictable Canadian weather.